is the podcast still the number one driver for your business right now?
Yep, it is. Yeah, we saw. I mean, the podcast. I'm really grateful for what the show has done. I was telling somebody the other day, I've actually been podcasting now for 9 years. Like, I started my first podcast in 2013, and I did it for 52 episodes, and then in I believe it was January, I think it was, of 2015 is when I started what is now the podcast, is this podcast, but at the time it was called The Art of Paid Traffic. And it was the first podcast that was all about paid traffic and Facebook ads and stuff like that. And then obviously others came along, and that's great. And it did really, really well. I was very fortunate where great downloads, a lot of people all over the world listening to it, and, you know, talking about shifting and making a change about, at this point, probably 3 years ago, I renamed it to The Art of Online Business because I was expanding on, I can still teach Facebook ads to anybody, right? And it's still very much a part of what I do, but I don't specifically do that. And so when I made that sort of expansion in the business, I changed the name to The Art of Online Business. And it's been, I mean, what's today, Tuesday? Tomorrow, I think we publish like episode like 626 or something. And we're hitting 9 million downloads of the podcast this summer, in total. And so, I mean, I'm really grateful for the show. And I love this format. I think how it's evolved is, you know, there was pretty much no competition 9 years ago. And now everybody and their brother has a podcast. And so it's harder to stand out. You have all the big names coming, you have big brands coming in, you have celebrities starting their shows because they finally understand the opportunity that exists with podcasting, which you've been talking about for a long time. And so, just like you said, we were talking before we hit record, like some ideas about I'm always looking for what can be done differently within the scope of an episode. Because, you know, I, like most people, do interviews. You know, I do 2 episodes a week, a Wednesday episode and a Friday episode. I like to think that I was one of the first people to do a quick tip episode. And now I see a whole bunch of people doing it, but I won't take credit for that by any means. But it's a shorter episode, right? So it's like Wednesday is my full length episode, whether, you know, it's like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, where it's either a solo episode with me or I do an interview. Friday episode is what I call a quick tip, where I talk about one specific thing for like 15, 20 minutes. Originally, it was supposed to be like 10 minutes, and I'm bringing it back down because it got longer. And it does really, really well. Now, I think the innovation part are the different things that you can do within episodes. You know, I think one trend is people are loving the shorter episodes, like 10 minutes long. And then, you know, so like, and just doing different things within the episode. The other big evolution, if you will, is video. So we're on video right now. We're both recording. And so it wasn't until November of 2021. So where are we? August. So 10 months ago, 11 months ago, 10 months, whatever it was, 9 months ago, I started doing video where I just basically turned on my camera like I'm on right now on this, you know, on my podcasting mic. And this is how I record my podcast episodes, whether it's obviously an interview or solo. And, you know, we were talking about earlier before we hit record, YouTube finally has a podcasting section now to choose from in the Explorer section. So it's been rumored for a long time that YouTube is getting into the second largest search engine. Let's get in on the quote ground floor of doing podcast videos on YouTube. But then also the leverage that you create when you do a video podcast, meaning I can cut these up into social media snippets. I can do little clip videos on the YouTube channel. The opportunity like TikTok, Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, all that different types of stuff that you can do. And that's, you know, I think the biggest innovation. I think that people who aren't doing video along with their audio podcast, they really need to if they're going to continue to take it seriously. So it's been fun to watch what's happening here in the space over the past few years.
Yeah, I definitely second that. Video used to be a luxury. It's like, hey, if you can, throw some video on there. Now it's becoming more of a necessity, not just because of platforms like YouTube, but simply because you can take, like you said, one recording, one interview, and then now you have the opportunity to repurpose it in so many different places. If you're looking for efficient ways to create content for your business, video podcast is the easiest one to start and the easiest one to scale, because you can take that same piece of content that, if you're just creating like a how-to video on YouTube, that doesn't necessarily translate to an audio-only format or to a microclip somewhere else. But a video podcast is so versatile, and it's relatively easy to turn on a camera while you're recording, that I think it really is a great opportunity. And the faster that people hop onto that, the quicker they'll be able to catch the wave.
It took me a while. It took me a couple weeks to get used to being on camera and doing doing the actual episode. But one thing I realize is that you look at other people who do video podcasts, and it's not like they're looking at the camera the whole time. They're looking off, and they're looking at the person, or they're looking at the screen or what have you, and they're talking. And so it was that little tip that kind of like calmed me down, if you will. And again, I've been podcasting at that time for 8 years. So it's not like it was my first episode, but I've been doing audio for all those years, and then I add video in, and it was kind of weird at first. But then when I realized, and all right, I don't have to be looking at the camera, and that's kind of weird, right? The whole time. You're like, but you are, you can be looking around, you can be looking at your notes. It's okay. But a lot of people prefer to watch podcasts these days. But yeah, in the leveraging part, like repurposing, the opportunities are endless. Blog posts, social media posts, video clips, you name it. It's there.
Well, hey there. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Honest Marketing Podcast. If you want to watch the entire episode, you can click right here and watch it right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get new videos every single week.